there are a lot of different weapons you can use when you're playing Skyrim. And I could choose to use something sensible, like a sword or a bow and arrow, but I'm not a sensible person. So today, we will be attempting to beat Skyrim with only a shield. The first thing we've got to do is make our character. Now, I don't play heaps of Skyrim, so I'm not super confident on which race would be best for the challenge. But I ended up going for a red guard because their description says that they're the best warriors in all of Tamriel. And that better be true, because if it's not, we are going to have a big problem. I did my best to make my character look like a shield, but it is kind of hard to make a person look like an inanimate object. I think this is good enough though. So I named him Splinter, realised life is pointless when I don't have a shield, and kneeled down under the executioner's axe, ready to accept my fate. Then this dragon showed up, which is confusing. I thought it was meant to be Thomas the Tank Engine here, but we can roll with the dragon. To get out of Helgen, I decided to follow the Imperial Hadvar, and once we got inside these barracks and he unbound my hands, I looked around for a shield, and I don't think that there's one in here. So I'm going to have to move on without one. Luckily, I've got Hadvar here to deal with my combat for me. This isn't a crutch I'm going to lean on for most of the playthrough. You're not going to see me dragging Lydia around and making her carry my burdens or anything like that. And I got a shield from one of the guys Hadvar just stabbed. So now I can start contributing to the violence. The shield, it doesn't do much damage. And it turns out it's actually considered a piece of clothing, not a weapon. And I think that says everything that needs to be said about using the shield as a weapon. Oh, not quite everything. It also takes a huge amount of stamina to shield bash. So on top of it doing very little damage, I have to wait for my stamina to start recharging before I can even swing the thing. Hadvar's still with me though, and I mean, I can't actually get rid of him yet, so he may as well help me out with the fighting. I mean, that was the plan, and it was a plan I stuck with for a while, but a little insight into me as a person. I'm a little bit very arachnophobic. Spiders, just thinking about spiders while I'm saying this makes me feel like there's a problem. I really hate them. I hate their legs, their eyes, their stupid mandibles, the way they move. Everything about them just freaks me out. So when I saw this big spider come at me, I just bolted. I don't even care about trying to fight anymore. I just need to get away from this spider. So I started running, and I did not stop running until I got out of the cave and entered the open world of Skyrim. And now that I'm out here, I'm going to take this opportunity to lay out the rules for this challenge before we get any further. Rule number 1, no magic. None of that stuff, especially healing magic. I feel like that would just make it too easy. Number 2, I'm not allowed to damage enemies using anything other than my shield, which is kind of an obvious one. And the final rule, I'm only allowed to use shouts when I have to for the story. And I'm also allowed to use Whirlwind Sprint because it shouldn't have much of an effect on the challenge, and it is just kind of a pain in the ass playing this game without it. My first task after escaping Helgen has got to be grabbing the Warrior Stone for that extra blocking XP, because I'm definitely going to be needing it. Next up, I discovered a fast travel point for Bleak Falls Barrow, because that'll save me some time later, and started making my way to the town of Riverwood to figure out what I should do next. On the way into the town, I hit a major milestone. I got my first kill all by myself with the shield. It was this rabbit, and the moment I arrived in Riverwood, I cooked up what remained of that little guy and feasted upon the fruits of my glorious bounty. And I could head over to Whiterun now and meet with the Jarl to talk about the whole dragon thing, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to head over to a nearby mine and check out just how effective the shield bash actually is when I'm doing it by myself against an enemy that isn't a rabbit. And it's not great. I should be able to get through this challenge by focusing in on my defensive capabilities, and hopefully I'll be able to get the perk at level 50 block that 5 times the shield block damage, because without that, dealing with dragons later on will take a very, very long time. And I mean, Now that I've figured that out, I may as well just head up to Bleak Barrow and get my hands on the Dragonstone for some wizard I haven't even met yet. And when it was just bandits and skeevers I had to deal with, I tried my best to actually kill them instead of just running past the enemies. I didn't kill all of them, but I made a good effort to. And some of you know what's next. This guy, the giant f***ing spider. And I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to fight it before I can set Arvel the Swift loose from his webs and continue. And I fought hard, both mentally and in the game. It's gonna take a long time to get rid of this spider, but I believe in myself. And I may as well give the webs in the next room a quick hit or two every now and then, because if they break before the spider dies, I'm perfectly fine with getting out of here early. And the webs broke with one hit, so it actually turns out that I could have gotten out of here at any time, so that's awesome. And when I continued on, some Draugrs gave me an assist dealing with Arvel, so I grabbed his golden claw and continued forward. There are way too many Draugrs in the dungeon for me to fight, so I'm just going to be trying to run past them all. I did discover though that the traps in the dungeon kind of one-tap the Draugrs, so that came in handy. And when I got to the end of the barrows, I grabbed everything out of the chest. And I mean the Dragonstone had to be in there, right? Like where else would it have been? Then the boss spawned in, I hit him once, saw that it did not do much damage at all, and got the hell out of there. Now I just need to head up to Dragon's Reach in Whiterun and deliver the Dragonstone to the court wizard Farengar. But I don't actually have the Dragonstone. It turns out it was actually on the boss in the dungeon, not in the chest. So I'm going to have to head back to Bleak Barrows and have another attempt at getting the Dragonstone. Things should be a little bit easier this time though, because while I was doing some shopping, I leveled up and took the Power Bash perk, which means I'm going to be able to use heavy shield bash attacks, not just my boring old regular shield bashes. Even with the new heavy attacks though, defeating the Draugr Overlord was a long and difficult process. And when I say long, I don't mean like 5 or 10 minutes or anything like that. It took me 22 minutes to kill the thing. Part of the reason for that was that when the old wrinkly bastard gets low on health, he regenerates it faster than I can do damage to him. And the only way I can damage him quick enough to land a killing blow is to wait for my stamina bar to charge all the way up and then hit him with only heavy attacks until it's completely empty. And that did take me a little while to figure out. But once I'd figured it out and pulled it off, it was pretty awesome. And with the sucking defeated, I grabbed the Dragonstone off his body and gave it straight to Farengar. He appreciates it, but now I've got to go deal with the dragon attack. And my shield skills, while formidable, are not allowing me to do much damage to the dragon. Lucky for me, there are a bunch of Whiterun guards here to help me, and with their help, I managed to defeat the wicked bewinged lizard pretty easily, and then I ate its soul. As it turns out, eating a dragon's soul isn't something anyone can just do, and I'm kind of a super special and important dragonborn that everyone should pay attention to. So some mountain wizards called me out of nowhere and asked me to go to the top of their mountain to discuss my new abilities. It's a long journey to the peak of the highest mountain in Skyrim, and on the way, I attempted to fight a necromancer and decided to run away instead, sent a bandit plummeting down to his doom, got killed by a saber cat, got killed by the same saber cat again, then ran away from the saber cat, and finally spent about 7 minutes trying to escape from some very, very persistent ice wolves. And the frost troll, I had to escape from the frost troll as well, of course. But I'm at High Hrothgar now, and the mountain wizards want to teach me some more shouts. So I yelled at them very impressively, and they taught me how to yell so hard that I go really fast, which should definitely make getting around a lot easier, and it's allowed in the rules. I said so. I said this one's allowed, so I'm going to use it heaps. The wizards have a task for me to complete before they can teach me any more though. I have to go to Ustengrav and retrieve the horn of Jürgen Windcaller for them. As soon as I entered Ustengrav, I realized the biggest problem with relying on blocking attacks to survive, and that is that you can't block magic. At least I can't until I get a perk at level 50 block. Until then, that mystical shit just passes through my shield like it's not even there. And even worse than that, ice magic. The ice spells don't just drain my health, they drain my stamina, making me almost completely incapable of dealing any damage, and having no stamina also makes it hard to run away. I did eventually figure out how to make it through the dungeon though, using a combination of being scared, running away, and avoiding getting into fights. I did fight these skeletons though, because they're literally just made of bones, and bones aren't actually very strong by themselves. Flesh is definitely a must-have if you want to be a soldier, and I honestly think I could not have died to the skeletons even if I tried to. Unfortunately, when I got to where the horn was supposed to be, there was just a note from some arsehole that took the horn before I could get here, telling me to meet them in Riverwood, so I went straight there to work all of this out. The person that stole the horn is Delphine, and she wants my help to deal with Skyrim's dragon problem. And seeing as that's what the main quest is kind of all about, I agreed to help, and the first thing I need to do to prove that I'm the Dragonborn is to kill another dragon. So I hopped on a carriage to Windhelm, and quickly walked over to Kynesgrove to watch a dragon get brought back from the dead, because regular dragons wouldn't be scary enough, they have to be zombie dragons as well. Fighting this dragon was harder than the one in Whiterun, because this time around, I don't actually have all of the Whiterun guards helping me, but I do have Delphine helping me. So I was able to rely on her to do a lot of the damage to the dragon, and to receive a lot of the damage that the dragon dished out. And when it died, I absorbed its soul as expected, proving that yeah, I'm the Dragonborn, obviously. That's why I was after that horn that she stole. Anyway, now that the dragon is dead, it's time to head back to Riverwood and discuss our next move. Delphine wants me to infiltrate a party at the Thalmor embassy and see if they know anything about the dragons, because they know lots of things about stuff, I guess, so I suppose it's worth a try. To get into the party, I took a carriage up to Solitude and met with this Malborn guy who can smuggle some of my stuff into the party. I gave him all of my armor, my shield, and some healing potions, which does mean I'm briefly not wearing any clothes. So I just headed down to the stables while completely naked to hand my remaining belongings over to Delphine for safekeeping, put some more appropriate clothes on, and headed to the party. I need a way to get away from the party unnoticed though, so I set up a rather unethical confrontation between some horny guy with rocks for brains,
Do you know who I am?
and an innocent serving girl that doesn't deserve any of this, and used that opportunity to sneak out back. This is going to be the end of my sneaking here though. I'm using heavy armor and haven't leveled up my sneaking skill at all, so I'm just gonna have to fight my way through this. I mean, I'm more gonna run away my way through this, but that's basically the same thing as fighting. I managed to get all the documents I needed to steal by just running past everyone and avoiding combat. But right after I finished grabbing the documents, a bit of an issue came up. The door out of here is kind of locked, and I don't know who has the key. So now I've got 2 Thalmor soldiers and a couple of named guys to take care of, which is really hard. I'm not equipped to deal with this fight and spent nearly 20 minutes trying my best to kill these guys. I figured out that I can stand up in these rafters to buy some time for my health and stamina to regenerate, but they will eventually manage to path somewhere where they can shoot lightning at me from, so that isn't a permanent solution. And after going through this for what felt like an eternity, making almost no progress on the enemy health bars, and dying a third time, I just gave up and loaded a save from before I went into this building. My new plan is to try to clear out this building one room at a time instead of letting it all build up at the end, because I think that will be a lot more manageable. First, I managed to single out one of the soldiers, and the fact that he didn't use any magic made that pretty easy to deal with. Next is this guy. I'm not going to try to pronounce his name, but it's there on screen for you. And he was a lot harder than the last guy because he was shooting lightning at me and stuff, but it wasn't too much stress because he kind of was barely able to path to me at all for some reason, so I had plenty of opportunities to regenerate my health and stamina during the fight. So after, admittedly quite a while of fighting him, I made him fall over and moved on to the room I spent all that time in earlier. It was pretty easy in there. I just had to take out 2 Thalmor soldiers, then I had to take out 2 more Thalmor soldiers, and one of them had the key I needed to move on. So I grabbed the key, opened the trapdoor, and ran through the caves down there as quickly as I could, and got the hell out of the Thalmor embassy, back to Delphine, and reported in that the Thalmor kind of don't know anything about the dragons. The Thalmor did know where to find an old man though, and an old man may not be a dragon, but he's the only lead we have, damn it. So I'm gonna head over to Riften and do my best to find an old man. Brynjolf should know where to find an old guy. So I quickly reverse pickpocketed a ring for him to earn his trust, and he let me know that Esbern, the old man, is deep in the tunnels under the city, like some kind of tunnel rat. So I headed down into the tunnels to find him, and I managed to get all the way to him just by running past the enemies with no complications this time around, which is a nice change. And even better than that, this old man is an absolute combat machine and completely decimated the Thalmor that were trying to stop us from getting out. Like I honestly don't know why he bothered having all those locks on his door when he can just pull all of this magic out of his ass, but I shouldn't be complaining. It made getting out of here a lot easier than I had expected, and I'm starting to understand why finding an old man might have actually been more important than figuring out why the dragons are coming back. Back at the Riverwood Inn, old man Esbern let Delphine and I know that our next move has got to be getting through Skyhaven Temple to have a little look, a little inspection at Alduin's Wall. And I mean, when I went to the temple, I kind of had Esbern, who as previously stated is absolutely insane, and also Delphine with me the whole time. So the whole dungeon wasn't a challenge at all, and I basically just ran through it while the other 2 killed everything in our path. And Alduin's Wall, it sure is a wall with pictures on it. So that's pretty cool, I suppose. Esbern had a look at the pictures and told me that the pictures say that there's a shout I can learn to defeat Alduin, and to learn more about it, I need to talk to the Greybeards to find out more. The Greybeards told me that they don't know anything about this, and I need to talk to Mario to find out more. Mario tells me that I need an Elder Scroll to find out what the words to the shout are, and I need to go and talk to the librarian at the College of Winterhold to find out where to find an Elder Scroll. The librarian tells me that he doesn't know where to find an Elder Scroll, and that I need to talk to Septimus Sigmus instead. And finally, Septimus tells me that to find an Elder Scroll, I need to head into the ruined Dwemer ruins of Elfland and search there. So that's where I'm headed next. Pretty much as soon as I went into the ruins, something huge happened. My block skill hit level 50, and that means I can take the Deadly Bash perk, which multiplies my block damage by 5. And when I tested it out, I was very happy to see that Deadly Bash is doing absolutely huge amounts of damage. I can fight now, like actually fight. I deal damage to enemies. It's great, and I just wish it had have happened sooner. There were still points where I returned to my running away and using environmental traps to take out my enemies, but all around I'm a lot happier with my no shield build than I was before I entered the ruins. And I know some of you might be thinking, hey Frogwoman, this girl here has the Targe of the Blooded, a shield that does bleeding damage. Nurbit used it in his video, but I haven't actually played that much Skyrim before, and I don't know that kind of thing. And I only watched said Nurbit video like an hour ago, so I had no idea that was there. So I kind of just walked straight past a shield that could have completely changed this playthrough and made me super powerful. So that's awesome. Once I went past that, I did the pressing buttons randomly until something happens puzzle to reveal the Elder Scroll. I grabbed the old rag and headed up to the throat of the world to watch some really honestly not very effective warriors attempt and fail to defeat Alduin. I did learn the Dragon Wren shout from them though, so I'm going to be able to make dragons stay on the ground to fight me from now on, which is pretty useful because the shield doesn't exactly have a lot of range. And speaking of Alduin, he's here and I have to fight him, and I'm really not a big fan of his frost breath. It made things a lot more difficult, but if I stay away from his head, he can't really use it, So I just did that. And seeing as he's the first dragon I've had to take out all on my own, well, Mario's here, but he's not really helping, so it's all on me. And honestly, it wasn't too bad. And I would have killed the f***er, but he is immortal in this mortal plane of existence, and to kill him, I'm going to have to go to the Nordic afterlife of Sovngarde. So that's just spectacular. Mario says that to get there, I need to trap a dragon over in the Jarl's Palace in Whiterun, so that should be pretty easy. Well, it would be, but Jarl Balgruuf wants a truce in the ongoing war between the Stormcloaks and the Imperials before he'll allow a dragon into his house. So I went back to the Mountain Wizards and asked them to run a peace council for me. They said yes. I grabbed Ulfric Stormcloak and General Tullius and headed back to High Hrothgar to negotiate a truce. We had a nice long chat, got some city swapping and atrocity compensating done, all around a very productive meeting. And now there will be a truce while I deal with the dragons. So I headed back to Dragon's Reach and told the Jarl that I am ready to trap a dragon on his back porch. I shouted the dragon's name and he came right over and walked into the trap. He says he can fly me to Skaldarfen Temple where I can enter a portal to Sovngarde. This will put an end to the game, but I think we're ready to do it. So I mounted the dragon and flew off to Skaldarfen. To get into the temple, I just ran past all the enemies in the front yard, because all of them were using ice magic and I just don't want to deal with that. Inside the temple, I did more fighting. There aren't dragons inside the temple, just Draugrs. And Draugrs I can handle. And taking out a Draugr overlord with it being super easy just felt amazing after the absolutely ridiculous struggle I had dealing with one of them earlier in the video. When I got through the temple and emerged on the other side though, things were a little bit more, not good. It's not a good situation we're in here. There are 2 dragons, a bunch of Draugrs, and a dragon priest in my way before I can hop into the portal to Sovngarde. And I tried to just run past them all and jump straight in the portal, which as many of you might know, is the correct way to get through this area when I'm doing a challenge like this, but when I jumped in, I died. And that got me thinking that I have to deal with the dragon priest first, because I'm kind of dumb like that, so I fought the dragons and the Draugrs separately to get them out of the way, and then went up and confronted the dragon priest. And he absolutely destroyed me. There's absolutely no way I can beat him. It was hard enough dealing with the dragon and the Draugrs. I kind of skipped over that, but that took me ages to do. But the dragon priest is just so much stronger. So I decided to be a bit of a quit and loaded a save from before I went to Skaldarfen. I spent this extra time leveling up to make myself stronger and getting my hands on more healing potions and other useful equipment. I spent well over an hour dedicated to making myself stronger so that I can fight the dragon priest. But when I decided I was ready and went back to Skaldarfen and fought through the temple again and dealt with the dragons again and got to the dragon priest, I kind of realized I can just stand in front of him and stop him from getting his staff. Without his staff, he can't hurt me. So I probably could have just done that the whole time, but I've killed him now, so I hopped in the portal to Sovngarde to face the Eater of Worlds, the most wicked of worms, Alduin, and put an end to his reign of terror, saving Tamriel from destruction. It was pretty easy. I mean, this boss fight is anticlimactic and underwhelming as hell. Even with a shield, it's just fighting a normal dragon with extra help from these dead guys. So yeah, it wasn't an issue at all, and with Alduin defeated, I said goodbye to my new friends in Sovngarde and returned back to the world of the living. And that is how I beat Skyrim with only a shield. Thank you so much for watching the video all the way to the end. It means a lot to me. If you want to support the channel, I've just added the option to join the channel as a member, and if you do that, you get access to early videos and some more perks that I think are pretty cool. And if you like the profile picture for the channel or the thumbnail for this video, the artist that made them is linked in the description, so it would be great if you could check her out. Thank you so much. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see what's next, and I hope you have a good day. Goodbye.